as a beloved work from Jesus, and so be it. Is Leo Vieira. He's coming from Westminster, Maryland. That's why he's a guest speaker. And today we have this fantastic topic, which is about the Spiritist Center and why we need Spiritist centers in the world. Why is this work important for all of us as a humanity? So, with no further ado, Leito, please come to the stand.
Oh, right there. Here.
Okay.
I lost the microphone. Amazing. Where's the microphone? Good evening, everyone. Just do one thing here. Hide notification. Great. It's good to be here. It's good to be sharing with all of you this topic with you, as Alba mentioned, very important topic to all of us. Vlad also mentioned, I heard him commenting, wow, such an important topic, right? The Spiritist Center in the world, the importance of the Spiritist Center in the world. This is actually a little adaptation that I did from a talk that we provided to a Spiritist Center in Connecticut, which was the role of the Spiritist Center in the world. In our quest of learning, studying and learning and exercising it as we give our talks on the books of Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, as we have seen over and over and over and over, the Manuel Filomeno de Miranda and other mentors as well, talking about how important the Spiritist Center is for us, right? What it does for us, as well as what I would like to say, how important we are for the Spiritist Center as well. And we'll get to see a little bit of that. But before we go on and we develop on the talk, I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you why you're here today. And I will ask Alba to ask you to share, if you want to share, why you're here today. And for those of us who are following us on the web, if you would like to share, share, and then I'll have Alba say it to all of us here so we can share with the public too. Jeanette.
I'm here because I like the environment and I like the talk, always the good talks here. And yeah, so I'm here.
Okay.
And I like to be here anyway, all the time. I like it.
She's always here anyway, right? So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this as well, because it's important for us to share with others how we feel in the environment, because the environment is good. But I'll say it again. Who makes the environment? We do. Daniel.
I'm here to exercise my spirituality and also to see good friends.
Exercise spirituality and see good friends. Okay, thank you. Dione.
I'm here to exchange energies, good energies.
Exchange energy, good energies, good ideals. Yes, Paula.
Thank you. I'm here to deepen my understanding of why I am here and where I am going.
Wow. It's getting deep. I didn't think I was going to get this deep, but awesome. But it's true. Anyone else? Don't be shy. All right. Oh, okay, Antonia, please.
I am here to learn more about the Jesus teachings.
Jesus
about
teachings.
God and about myself.
Okay, God and herself. Awesome. Great. Thank you.
And to learn the many levels of spiritism.
All right. Learn about many levels of spirit is spiritism. Thank you.
Kirsten say she comes here to learn and to grow.
So she's following us from the web. She's not here with us, but she is she's following it to learn and grow. Don't sit down yet. All right. Now, here's a follow-up question. This is interactive, right? Did you feel any adverse feeling as you came here today, or before you came here today, or did you feel that you were alone? or connected with someone?
Yes, I feel like something is missing. I feel not that I feel lonely, but I feel I don't have the exchange of energy. You know, it gives me happiness to come and the passes and
So
the
not
knowledge.
necessarily
It's
you're
not loneliness, no, but it's like it makes me feel alive. I'm not the only one.
when you're here, but before
Yeah.
you came here, is that the feeling that you had?
It's
You're
it's a
alone.
feeling of emptiness.
Okay.
Like
All right.
it's something is missing. I need to go.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Anyone else? Did you feel anything? Any connection? Daniel?
I don't have my glasses, but Kirsten is saying that I felt connected to my family and to this overall feeling of love and joy and gratitude
Thank you. Thank
before
you,
coming
Kirsten.
here.
Anyone else? These are important questions because when we talk about, thank you, Alba. And if anyone else would like to say anything, just raise your hand, and keep my eyes crossed like this because it's cold. I'm sorry. But anyways, we're asking these questions because we need to find out within ourselves the reason why we're coming, right? What's the purpose? Am I just going to listen to a person speaking? Am I going to, because we tend to do things repetitive, and I'm speaking for us, Spiritists, right? You know, we come here, well, right now, really 2 days out of the week, but we meet it as well online, and we do things repetitive, and it's just like, okay, now I have to get home, do this, and we lose really the reasons why we're doing such a thing. Much like, okay, why are you taking a shower every single day? Right. Well, it's a crazy question if you just think, oh, you need to shower, we need to clean ourselves, right? But can we make our shower a little bit more, let's say, effective, if you will, right? Yes, we can. It may be a moment of relaxation. It may be a moment of that you're within yourself, that you really dive within yourselves, that an inside, Leo joke here. It is the moment in the morning that I get up and really think about work. What do I have to do today? And really, it flows. It flows. Well, when I get home, my evening shower is really to forget about work, forget about the things that I need to forget, right? So again, there is a different meaning. I'm saying this because, again, we really have to make sure that when we talk about importance, we also have to have, especially for us who come here several times of the week or connect with the Spiritist teaching, we need to really find out what is the purpose, right? And yeah, sometimes, most of the time, especially for us, is that I need to receive something. I need to reconnect. I need to learn about spirituality, right? The different levels of spirituality or spiritism, right? I need to learn about Jesus. We need to be reminded several times. These things, there's no wrong answer. There is no nothing in a way that we can say very egotistic way to utilize or to partake in a Spiritist center, but we don't want to lose the purpose, right? So again, really for us to kind of think about it, and we're going to connect a little bit towards the end as well on this message. When we look at the Spiritist center, right, sometimes it may feel that is, okay, I'm going there, but things are not really changing, right, in our lives. Things are not moving, right? And we may feel sometimes that quite the opposite, that things are getting worse. Not really worse. It's because once we start getting to the Spiritist center or going to the Spiritist center or connecting with the message, we become a little bit more alert. Perhaps things that weren't happening we were not able to analyze or to see it in the past. Now it becomes more apparent. It becomes more evident to us, and we say, oh my God, I never thought about this. And this is about us. Most of the time, because of our egotistical ways, we tend to point out a lot of wrong things on other people. Nothing wrong with that, really, until we not saying things or, again, point out our fingers. But I bring this analogy of a small flame, right? That it is this small flame that we have in our hands that we have in our society that sometimes it doesn't really like it's changing anything, or it's giving much light to all of us, right? It's that little candle that is lit right now in the room, and it's not making any change. Paula, do me a favor, turn off the light, please. Or Isabella, one of the two, whoever's closer. Okay, now, if our eyes are adjusting right now, we're going to see more and more and more. But when the lights were on, it wasn't doing much, right? So think about holding this candle in the darkness when we're having that difficult moment of our lives. It is something, right? It depends on what we do, we make out of it, right? Isabella or Paula, can one of the two bring the light on? Lights on, just adjust your eyes, right? But it is the same light that sometimes can be turned to be the sun, right? This is to wake you guys up right at the beginning. And you guys remember this analogy, right? But sometimes this small light can be turning into a sun in our lives. It's that small messages sometimes that we see, that we come to the Spiritist without we forgetting our purposes of life, that we listen, or that we see, that we read, that we share, that it's that click, and then becomes a sun, right? It has happened to me several times. Coming here on a Monday, I'm not presenting. I'm just sitting and giving myself the best of myself in terms of, praying with others and giving the passes, or sometimes receiving the passes. And Kirsten, Alba, Daniel, whoever's presenting, or sometimes a comment that we have with one another on a side conversation, uplifting conversation, that we say, wow, I never thought about that. Or I didn't think that that person who I was talking to is going through some trouble that I don't have. Who am I to think that I am that person who needs the most help? Perhaps the other individual needs more. And we give more of ourselves instead of coming to the Spiritist Center just to ask. So I want to give, again, besides the questions, two exercises that I want to bring into our hearts, to our mind, is this idea of the questions, our purpose, and what this small flames of, sometimes we feel that it is a small flame can become the sun of our lives, right? Hopefully. Let us go, since we're talking about the importance of Spiritism, excuse me, the importance of the Spiritist Center in our home, in the world. Let us rescue a little bit, just basic things. And I invite you all to read some of the reference that I'm going to bring here for us to dive into this importance, dive into the purpose in our lives. What is Spiritism and the purpose of a Spiritist center in our society? First things first. In the book, What is Spiritism? Allan Kardec brings to us that Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits, as well as their relationship with the corporeal world. Paula, what did you say you came to the Spiritist Center? Why she's here and where she's going. It's right here, right? Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits. Who are spirits? We are spirits. We're incarnated spirits, as well as their relationship with the corporeal world. Why did I ask everyone, did you feel anything? Any ways, as we read in the message, that Vladimir opened today, to be more serene, right? To get less angry. When we were, and Joanna de Angel says at the end, when we're dealing with individuals that are not so helpful. I'm paraphrasing here. Didn't remember the number of the book or the chapter, but again, right? Because we are not alone. We are not alone. If she's doing this, all of us were doing the same in terms of knowing, understanding where we are in this lifetime. It is the set of principles as revealed by the superior spirits contained in Allan Kardec's work, which constitute the Spirit's fundamentals, the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel explained by Spiritism, and Heaven, Hell, and the Genesis, right? Again, this is a beautiful book that is very, let's say, direct to the point in terms of, what is Spiritism? What can we learn from it? What can we learn the conversation between the conversations of Allan Kardec and others who came to question what Spiritism was and what Spiritism was doing in our lives, right? This is very important as well, that I wanted to bring for us to show that when this book was actually put together, the Meanings book, Allan Kardec, towards the end of the book, talks about this Spiritist Center, the formation, how we need to portray ourselves, how serious the discipline that we have to bring to the place, right? Because if we're disciplined, guess what? The meetings will be disciplined, right? If we are frivolous, as we'll see later on, guess what? The meetings will also be frivolous, right? And this is the first part of it. He says that society's purpose is to study all the phenomena related to spirit manifestations and their application to the moral, physical, historical, and psychological sciences. Issues involving politics, religious controversy, or socioeconomics are forbidden. This is, again, we're not saying that other Spiritist centers that we have participated, perhaps things that we have said here before, because we're not perfect, right, was to be deemed or whatever, right? But this is right here by Allan Kardec saying there are certain things that we don't touch on it. We may analyze to learn from it, because when we're talking about historical and philosophical sciences, we need to understand also that, I need to go back and see what was the political arena in Jesus' time and how that affect Christianity. It's okay to do such a things. Now, if we were to come here and say, are you a Republican? Are you this? What party are you following? Guess what? That is trouble, because that's going to create more trouble than anything else. This is not the purpose why we're here, right? So again, we're rescuing these things because we really need to pay attention to the purpose of the Spiritist Center in our lives and in the world, right? Continue on what Spiritism is. The Spiritist Center. This is an amazing book, and unfortunately is not in English yet. Spiritual Dimensions of the Spiritist Centers by Sueli Carla Schubert. And for those who are able to read Portuguese, please read, share. And I am just amazed by the teachings that Sueli Carla Schubert and some of others individuals also bring in this book with her, that we ought to actually work on this very fast in order for us to go ahead and bring into English, so we can help, guiding other all of us in this idea of what the Spiritist Center is. In Bezerra de Menezes is actually an introduction of the book, says the following, that the Spiritist Center, therefore, today, repeating the experiences of that time, and he's talking about the same thing that we were doing 2,000 years ago with Christ, right? When Christ brought the good news. That's what he's referring here into that time. Has the purpose of studying and practicing the doctrine of the immortals, where the spirits are enlightened, learning in fraternal coexistence the experience of solidarity, work, and tolerance, so that they can move towards plenitude. When we look at this, it's not just the didactical, oh, yes, God is this and this and that. We have, as we're going to see here later on, different types of spirits. We have the physical world and the spirit world. But really, how does that impact me and the rest of the world? How will this impact my evolutionary path with others as well? Quite frankly, how this will impact me when I go to work tomorrow and I have to deal with a difficult person. It's beyond the idea of just, serving the purpose of, we're going to learn by the spirits, because that can be held in a frivolous meeting. We talk to the spirits, we ask some really mundane questions, and we go home, right? So the purpose is way beyond, the Spiritist Center is a home that is not just teaching us about there's two different worlds, right? Living in coincidentally with one another, right? And then he says the same, the following. An edifying workshop, it is also a hospital for dizzy and sick souls who need to free themselves from bad inclinations, vices, and morbidities, acquiring ideal health. Who are these individuals in this edifying workshop? The spirits? Us. Us. All of us. Who is free of problems here? We're not. Physical, psychological. Yes. She's like, yeah, whatever, Leah. Right? But we are these individuals, dizzy and sick souls. Now, at the end of the year, we feel dizzy, right? We drive somewhere, everybody's going their own ways, doing their things, as far as, I need to go shopping, I need to do this, right? And we're like, oh my God. Then you get cut by someone in traffic, feel dizzy. I'm like, what happened, right? And our bad inclinations, right? Vices and morbidities acquire ideal health. And health here is not just of the physical body, is all throughout, right? All the things that we have inside of us. Had a beautiful talk by Yasko talking about forgiveness, right? A problem that we see day in and day out, that we have such a trouble exercising, right? And yet the world needs more and more. I'm just giving an example that these are things that we learn at the Spiritist Center. We are reminded at the Spiritist Center as well. It is in the same way a school of integral education as it facilitates the learning of the laws of life, inculcating them within, so that attitudes and behaviors are renewed for their own benefit and for others in the direction of the loving Father. And then he goes on, and it's beautiful. I didn't bring the whole thing here, but needless to say, is when we are speaking with a spirits actually at the mediumistic meeting, right? One of the aspects of the spiritual rescue, right, that is done, it is in these bases, right? As the Spiritist Center, not only the physical location, but all the spiritual attachments or dwellings that are attached to the Spiritist Center, that most of the time serves these spirits as a hospital. And they will tell us that, look, this is a beautiful hospital that I'd never seen before, right? And they converse with us in terms of, what is this? I never seen a hospital so clean, right? Sometimes they say, this is a beautiful school. I love the teachers here, right? And they give us the accounts of what's happening on the other side. So we see these two, let's say, facets of the Spiritist Center, and it is the same for us. But when we bring, for example, an account, a historical account, something that we learn, it's a school, right? When we're studying different topics, right, that many of Andre Luis is reminding us about, I don't know, chemistry, right, physics, right, or perhaps we learn psychological matters with Joanna de Angelis, it becomes a hospital, right? So all of these different teachings that we receive, and it goes to show the purpose of the Spiritist Center, what the Spiritist Center is, right? We're not there yet, I know, because we're talking about in the world, but we're going to make a connection. Continuation. What is a Spiritist Center? I brought three actually beautiful passages of this book, Dicionário da Alma, Dictionary of the Soul, that Emmanuel says the following: a Spiritist Center is a school where we can learn and teach, plant good and reap its graces, improve ourselves and improve others on the eternal path. Here's really interesting about the Spiritist Center, and I'm giving characteristics to remind us and help us connect to our true purpose, because perhaps even the things that we have said here, which was extremely important, I value 100%, may change tomorrow, because either we will need more help, perhaps we'll face a difficulty, right, that may change a little bit of the reasons why we're coming here, or perhaps we'll feel great that we're, you know what, guess what, I can help others. I feel great today, right? But look what he's saying here. We can learn and teach. One of the things that we find nowadays in religiosity, right, is the in here I will be speaking directly more towards the certain churches, certain congregations. There, there is always one person that represents that institution, and it's fine. I'm not criticizing, but we have to also remember that most of these individuals, they are highly evolved individuals. I like to consider them, just based on the fact that they are taking the opportunity to do such a thing, to share with others the teachings of our Master Jesus, right? If it is a Christian connection, perhaps, we can also say that they're not perfect. And when that individual says or do something negative, guess what? Everybody points fingers, right? Or accuse those individuals, right? In the Spiritist Center, we don't have such a thing. We don't have that main person that says, oh, talk to the priest, talk to this individual. That we are learning, we're sharing, we're teaching. And when we come up front, we joke about this ourselves, that, perhaps when we are presenting something and we say something that we know that deep inside that is still not there, guess what? It's for us to learn, those who are presenting. And it's the same thing when we are bringing a family member, connecting with others. When we take the message here and we teach outside, not presenting on a talk like this, but perhaps through our actions, right? We're learning and we're teaching, right? We're planting these good seeds and we're reaping it together, because it's not only for me, but as we will see, the reason why we brought the world, it should be to the whole humanity, right? And I'm already giving the insights. The Evangelical Spiritist Center, however humble, is always a sanctuary for mental renewal in the direction of a higher life. None of us who serve, even with our mere presence, to an institution of this nature should forget the dignity of the office office received in the elevation of the priesthood that belongs to us. There are two things that I'd like to talk about here. The Evangelical the Evangelical Spiritist Center, Spiritism Center, or Spiritist Center. When Manuel says this evangelical, is really, as we have heard from Antonia, is to the teachings of our Master Jesus, that as a third revelation, Jesus, as the second revelation, brings to us, as Jesus as we study in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the teachings of our Master Jesus, and the third revelation being Spiritism, this again renewed teachings of our Master Jesus, because for so many times, for so many years of our life, so many reincarnations, we have used in the wrong way, right? Or we have applied not so well, because again, our unfortunate backwardness, whatever we want to call it. And when we talk about this priesthood here, it's really that the invitation that we have, that we receive when we learn something of this nature, right? The responsibility that that comes with the understanding that there is a tomorrow, that there is a continuation, is huge. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but if we think about it, right? There is a tomorrow. I'm not going to die, right? I'll lose the physical body, but we'll go on. We'll continue on. Whatever I'm doing today will serve me tomorrow, will serve us tomorrow, right? So when we accept the fact that there is a tomorrow, I also have to accept that there was a yesterday, because we're living continued beings, right? So yes, everything that I did yesterday is actually exactly what served me to be here today with each one of you and all of us together, right? So there is a responsibility, right, of whatever we do now, tomorrow, guess what? It will knock back on our doors, right? So when we're talking about this priesthood over here, is for us to alert one another in this matter. Alert one another that, look, there's a tomorrow. Let us try to get together and do the right things, right? Let us try to propose the best to one another and for ourselves. So that's the idea of the elevation of the priesthood that belongs to each one of us, right? To preach what is truly now in our hearts, in our minds, right? A center, temple of hearts, in the face of Jesus is a home for souls from whom lofty tasks of self-denial and fraternity, harmony, and light are destined, right? Again, this is actually from another spirit, from the same book, Joaquim Aquino, who is reminding us that it is this temple of hearts as we are studying our Master Jesus. We have seen a lot. Each one of us perhaps have studied quite a bit what Spiritism is, right? I want to remind everyone again that the Spiritist Center is important in our lives, right? In the world. But we are as important to the Spiritist Center as the Spiritist Center is for us, right? Let's not forget this, especially because I like to believe that each one of us here, those who are following us on the web, who will follow us, will watch us later on as well, will also have this feeling of, well, I'm a valued individual in the Spiritist Center. And the Spiritist Center is super value, has a huge value to me, right? To my society, right? It may not be because, it may not feel this way because we're very few in many Spiritist Center. And Kardec talks about this in the in this book over here, Spirit Journey, talks about this as well in the Medium's book. It's not the number of people, right? But it's the quality of the people who are at the Spiritist Center. Why? The Spiritism is a sign which dwells with the nature, origin, destiny of spirit, as well as the relationship with the corporeal world. When we're talking about the corporeal world, we also have to think that it's also all of those who are connected with us on both realms of life. Those who are incarnated with us, as well as those who are discarnated, connected with us, right? Before we go on into the other part of this talk, how many people we think that we have connected? Okay, let's take I'm not gonna, social media, for example. Let's just, we don't have to think about social media in terms of, I'm not gonna give names. How many people you think that the first social media that comes to mind that you're part of, that you have connected with you? Say a number. How many people you have? How many friends? Alba's like, oh, I have 1,000 people following me right now, right?
The opposite.
Quite the opposite. Okay, I'm joking. But I want you to guys think of this idea of connection, right? We're talking about physical individuals in the physical body, physical individuals, incarnated beings, connected with us, right? Our family circle, right? The people who connect with us on a daily basis, right? Our co-workers, right? All of these things. Taking perspective this. Now, think of the people that the spirits that we're connected who are not incarnated. It's quite a bit. Now, think of the people who are connected with the people that you're connected with. Now, let's extrapolate this a little bit. Let me see if I can say this right. Think of the discarnated beings that are connected with the people that you're connected physically speaking. It blows our mind, right? So we see the responsibility as well that we have as incarnated beings in this beautiful opportunity that we have in the physical body, who has a Spiritist Center to come to and to realize these things and to be reminded of these things. Because when we were asked about to talk about the role of the Spiritist Center, I was like, oh my gosh, how can I talk about the role of the Spiritist Center? And then it dawned on me, it's like, it's a huge responsibility. It's not something for us to run, and screaming and, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. No, it's quite the opposite. It's like, wow, this is really interesting. Look at the power that we have in our hands, right? Compared to the options that we already had, but they were not well, let's say, exercised, as well as they were not well explained as it is through Spiritism nowadays, right? Why we brought the world. I don't want to dwell in the idea of the spirit hierarchy that we find in the third order. I'm sorry, on the spirits book, excuse me, that we see the third order imperfect spirits, second order good spirits, first order spirit, pure spirit. But I want to dwell a little bit more in the idea of the different planets that we see, that we learn through Spiritism, that we are vibrating on, right? We have down the bottom, down there, that's kind of small, primitive planets, planets of trials and expiation, regenerative planets, happy planets, and celestial planets. So 5 orders of planets that are allowing spirits, as you can see here, through different orders, to reincarnate, right? Not necessarily the third order, the imperfect spirit would be reincarnated on a happy planet. So where are we right now? We went from a primitive planet, right? We can tap ourselves in the back and say, good job, right? We came out of that position of living under the weather, cavemen, having to hunt. Now we are an organized society. We have laws, right? Different sets of laws, depending where we live in the world. Some are going extremely well. Some are going not so well, things that we have to do. But we are a planet of trials and expiation. Why trials of expiation? Because in some cases, we are trialing, right, to learn things, right? To create that thick skin that Joanna de Angelis, mentioned or reminded us or earlier today, to be of someone who says, you know what, this shall pass, right? Or perhaps we're expiating, we're atoning certain things from the past that we have done, right? Sometimes it can be both, right? Because we do so well, we encounter that issue of the past that we left behind, and we do even more, right? So then it becomes this beautiful lessons, not only for us, but for those as well who are watching us. And we are transitioning, as we have said, into this regenerative planet, right? That is the third order of planets. So that one day, a long way ahead of us, we will move into a happy planet, and then a celestial planet. Why we're saying this? Why are we reminding ourselves of this again? We are in this transition. And this is the key element right here, why it is important in the world, right? We often talk about the idea of how will be a planet of regenerative planet. Everybody will be happy, everybody will be cool, everybody will be respecting one another. Not necessarily. It's not a happy planet yet, right? And we often ask, how, what's gonna be there. One thing that I like to do is the opposite, is to, and we have mentioned this in some of our talks, what is not in the planet of regeneration. Think about it, right? Will certain foods be in a planet of regeneration? When we look at the spirits, when we look at the aspect of the spirits, that we're in this convalescence type of life, right? As if we just came out of a special surgery, right? That anything we do, it will put us back into that position, right? So we see that in that aspect, we're not happy yet. We're walking slow. We're making very slow strides, right? But not necessarily that we will be happy. And quite frankly, there will be others that will be inciting us still to say, yeah, go ahead and drink some more or eat some of that heavy food. I'm using food because at least I feel that, so materialistic at times in terms when it comes with food that it's easy for us to understand. Leo, eat that white chocolate. Love white chocolate. So eat that white chocolate. And I know it's pure sugar. But for someone who just had let's say, a very serious surgery related to that, you cannot have that chocolate. You cannot have that sugar, right? But this is going to be the aspect of the regenerative planet. How we change this? Because it's not only me, as I just mentioned, but there will be others also trying to say, Leo, do it. Despite the fact that the Spiritist Center will be there, right? So we need to become stronger. We need to be together so that perhaps when there is a person saying, don't do go ahead and do it, there are 3 others, 4 others saying, don't do it. This is going to put you back there. There will be a Saturday meeting reminding us, don't do it. A Monday meeting, a Tuesday meeting, a Wednesday meeting saying, no, let's go ahead and uplift our minds. Let's take our minds out of that white chocolate. You can do it. And let's lift ourselves up. Hope you get the picture. But again, we are going through this transition. As we are in this transition, I would like to kind of discuss something that I came across as we're putting this together from millenniumproject.org. What are the world's challenges of today, right? I go over a little bit with you here. Number 1, sustainable development of climate change. We talk about climate change all the time, right? Clean water, population resources, in terms of, the resources that we have for our never stop growing population. Democratization, global foresight and decision making, global convergence of IT. We have a lot of technology, but we don't know how to deal with it, right? We have many things that is, at the tip of our fingers, but it's creating more. At times, it can create more problems than not. Rich and poor gap, health issues, as we continue to dwell with the idea of COVID-19, education, right? That is not accessible to everyone, that is not at the same level for everyone, as well as people really thinking, I need to educate myself, right? There is a need to educate people on education, right? If we can say that way. Peace and conflict, right? Status of women, which we're going to talk a little bit soon. Transnational organized crime, energy, science, and technology, global ethics. And this global ethics here, one of the things that we see that we can also discuss in other areas as well. Drugs, us not really the direct drugs that we know, but all the drugs of life that is really taking up our time with nonsense, right? That can one day perhaps it will be considered a drug, right? Not in the sense that it will do damage just to our physical body, but if I can use my time for something else, why not do that, right? So we need to also think, it's much like, when we talk about slavery, it's slavery of really slaving one individual or one group of people, but we can also slave other people's mind, right? The way they feel as well, right? To become dependent on us, right? So we really have to think of, sometimes we extrapolate a little bit to really go to the core of the idea of drugs are, in order for us to say, education, again, really needs to be a priority for all of us. Here we go again. Leo, you're talking about political issues. What is our, again, we will see that in our planet today, we have our political issues. We have, in the political arena is quite a fiasco right now. Let's just leave it at that right now, right? And this is not just in one country. We see this in our family settings, right? We see the problem in small jurisdictions. We see this, in our states here in the U.S., right? And we see in the country. And then if we travel abroad, it's the same thing. For some of us who are from different countries, Brazil, other countries as well in Europe and whatnot, we see the problem. It's a reality, right? The social, which is also an issue that we have, economical issues that comes with, again, as a consequence of the political problems. And we also have the clashes of the different religions. So if we were to look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, didn't lock myself inside of my house and because everything is lost. But it's not. If we think about it, it's not. If we compare ourselves to 100 years ago, if we compare ourselves to 200 years ago, right? And it only gets better if the further back we go, right? The reason I'm saying this, because it's very easy for me to come over here and paint a picture of a lost world. It's not, right? Because there is a lot of good things that is happening. We just have to attune ourselves to it. One of them is here tonight. If you think about it, at Kardec's time, could we really, without a question, go to a place and assembly like this? this country 200 years ago. Let's think of that. So it's very important that we analyze these things or analyze things in our lives as well with a positive mind. And I think it is one of the aspects or one of the ideas that Spiritism brings to us in the Spiritist Center. Bottom line, the psychological, the spiritual, and the physical aspect of our planet, again, is good, but there's a lot of work to be done. We all agree there's a lot of work to be done. We can't run from that reality, right? The disparity of everything, right? In terms of us compared as a nation to other nations, right? And you may say, Leo, well, what am I going to do with the individual all the way in Africa or whatever, it's going on in that country, in this country? Well, be a good citizen here. And if you can help over there, great. But start from here, right? There's a great philosopher, Adam Smith. He was an economist too. He always talked about, the little economy affecting the big economy, right? The micro affecting the macro, right? Because if we have a little town that is conducting their business well, guess what? That town is going to conduct business with the next town, in the statewide matter, and then in the country will do well, and we will start doing business with other countries. So little by little, it affects one another. And I'm talking a little bit about the economic here, because it is an aspect that rubs off from our day-to-day lives, right? On how I connect with myself, shopping, at a local store, versus a huge store. And again, that's another issue that we can get into, but just for us to get the picture, there are challenges. There are several challenges that we need to address, but there are a lot of good things happening as well that I want to go ahead and make sure that we are talking about. I brought this idea of the world here because this idea of addressing what's happening in the world was also in the mind of Kardec at the time that he was actually working to bring all this work for us and to leave with others the beautiful science that Spiritism is. I want to just quickly address a couple of things. In the Spiritist Review of 1860, there is a passage entitled Spiritism in England. And the question was proposed that, England did not accept Spiritism mainly because of the character of the people there. But Kardec comes very eloquently and addresses the fact that it was not the character of the people. It was because of the influence of religious idea that they had. But because they were a free society, they were able to come and they were able to analyze that, you know what, this makes sense, right? And they were actually, they start to accept more. And that was actually when they started to issue as well the Spiritist Review in English as well. So why do we bring this here? Because number one, a historical fact that happened as he was actually analyzing as well in 1860. But sometimes we think that it's just here in the US, or sometimes because we're such a melting pot as well, how will this affect others from other religions, from other countries? Let's do our best. Let's try to understand that individuals that are in front of us, right? Let us try to understand that perhaps, yes, I had an upbringing that it was at a Catholic church. So how am I going to talk to that individual? Not in the Spiritist Center only, but what we learn here, we're going to take it someplace else. And sometimes we may get people who are a little bit adverse. You don't have to talk about spirituality or spiritism per se, but what about your conduct, right? So we start to embrace people at a different level with the things that we learn at the Spiritist Center as we apply in our lives. The Spiritist Journey, and this book is actually available to all of us. This is beautiful. I think this is actually, if I had time, I would read the passage, but I want to just touch base on it. 1862, on the formation of Spiritist group and society. Amazingly, Kardec actually comes and say, look, I don't have much to say. I'm, in a very humble tone, but to express to you what already is in the Medium's book, as we mentioned towards the end, we will read all the information on on societies and whatnot. First thing he talks about is to make sure that when there is the need to establish or to start a group or a spirit society, it has to be serious. It has to have discipline, right? The individuals, and he talks about numbers, he points out numbers as well. The individuals should be of a very serious character. Not that we're going to be a very uptight person, it's not that. But in terms of what we're learning and the reasons why we're here, we should be serious. We should have discipline of time, discipline of character, how we dress ourselves, how we connect with one another, right? All of these things. And then he talks about women. This is one of the beautiful, most beautiful part of this passage, that at the time, women could not vote, could not, partake in congregations, in certain meetings. And the one of the things that he talks about is that why not bring women? Why not allow them to be part of it, right? So he was actually very worried about the fact that we should be inclusive, right? And he talks about the importance of the women in society. And if the women is able to come in contact with Spiritism, to learn about the science, to learn about, as Paula said, right? My position here in the now with my husband, if my kids, right? Guess what? She's going to be a better provider. She's going to be a better person in the society as well. So we have to make sure that we include them as well. And then he talks about, in this translation here, it's a little bit interesting because it talks about men, young men, but in the Portuguese version, it talks about the youth, right? Jovens in Portuguese, for those to understand. It's important for us to analyze this because I put youth and teenagers, right? He addresses this in 1862. Think about it, because women, they did not have their place as they have nowadays. Imagine young kids. It's like, no, you shouldn't be here. These are things for adults, right? And he talks about also including them and giving them the teachings in a different way, right? But very inclusive again. Why do we bring this? It's one of the aspects of the Spiritist Center. And if we can do this in the Spiritist Center and we can bring this to one another, we'll be doing, hopefully, in our daily lives. You see? Final thing in this matter. The medium's book, as we mentioned earlier, it talking about the meetings in general, and again, although this has it's more towards the mediumistic meetings, right? I think we can apply this to our daily lives as well. When we talk about coming to the Spiritist Center and the reasons why we're coming to the Spiritist Center, there are three types of meeting that he categorizes: frivolous meetings, experimental meetings, and instructive meetings. The frivolous meeting is exactly that meeting that people come and say, let's ask the Spirit, who's going to win the World Cup, right? Guess what? What type of spirits will come to that meeting? Meetings that like, spirits that like soccer. Not to say that Daniel's laughing back there, but it's frivolous questions, right? Who am I going to marry tomorrow? These are the kind of, and it happens more often than not. Still, experimental meetings. These are the meetings that we come and we want to see, the Spirit coming and talking to us, just to kind of, and to an extent, it has a purpose, but it's not an instructive meeting where we take now the level of saying, let's understand why the Spirit is coming. Why am I here? How I can help, right? With good intent, right? So we can all learn from all of this. Because a lot of that happens as well is the misunderstanding that the Spiritist Center, the mediumistic meeting and the Spiritist Center is for the Spirit that is communicating with us. No, it's for us. Because those are individuals who are, especially in that meeting, the mediumistic meeting, first and foremost, they're learning. They're learning. So when we bring a message, when we share mediumistic meetings, right? Several works here, or the product of mediumistic meetings, right? Of mediumistic work, right? Guess what? We're learning. The Spirit comes, gives us a beautiful message. Now you lose you. Give an example. Bring a beautiful accounts that we don't have. Saying these are the first meetings that our Master Jesus actually worked with others, right, to bring beautiful teachings. As if he went to a school where everything was recorded and he was actually writing through Francisco Cândido Xavier. Beautiful book, beautiful accounts. For the rest of our lives, we will read this book. I think we presented here twice already. I think it's time for us to go back. We can read a million times, and every time it amazes me that I'm like, oh, I don't remember that passage, right? It's a beautiful thing. So the mediumistic meetings are not for them, it is because a lot of these spirits, they need the physical shock, they need the physical encounter so they can find out, okay, what's happening to me? They're still in that sense of being lost. I lost the physical body, but I don't know where I am, right? Continuation in terms of why we bring the world. And my time is almost running out of time here. Chapter 14 of this book. I can't remember what session this is right now. I would say session 6 or 7 of the presentation on the way of on the way to a world of regeneration of the series that we were doing that we just finished. But Manuel Filomena de Miranda described a meeting that happened in the spiritual realm over Brazil to give the guidelines of what was to be done, right, in this transition from a planet of trials and expiation to a planet of regeneration, right? And it's beautiful because as if the founding fathers of Brazil, and as if they were there, right? And then we can take our founding fathers here and really think, that's the picture that I brought, right? That it's so hard to comprehend the high level of these spirits that were there. And one of the things that he said is the following: at this time, naturally within their own time zones, in virtually every nation of the planet, a similar meeting is being held by the leading spirit guides of each of those countries. From the exalted vibrations plane he inhabited, Jesus sent his messengers to warn humankind and to declare the defined evolutionary change about to take place on the earth. So it didn't happen only in Brazil. Every single nation had the same meeting. Guess what? Many of those individuals there have their foot in different congregations, and one of them being Spiritism. Do we think that is just individual highly spirits that are coordinating the Spiritist meeting only? No. Perhaps spirits that also connected with the Christian community in terms of the Protestants, right? The Jewish, right? The Catholics, because they're also doing their part in the planet, right? And everything else, economics, politics, and all of these things. We have to remember we have free will. So most of the time, still in our level, a lot of the individuals who are in power right now, they're not going to listen as much as we pray for them or as much as their mentors are also working hard. But everything shall come to pass. And the transition is happening, right? So as such, the spirit guides of each country will review what is foreseen and the future days regarding the inevitable transformation that has been taking place at this slower pace so far, but now needs to be accelerated. So we see this happening in every nation. And if we have a Spiritist center in the world, in every nation, they are also alerting us of the reality of the two worlds, of the physical and the spirit as well, right? Our population, I think it just broke 8 billion, right? Daniel, correct if I'm wrong. 8, right? And Emmanuel brings us what? That it is only a third of the spirits that are living on planet Earth, herb. So multiply that by 3. right? Huh? 24, right? Thank you. Still thinking. I'm just kidding. 24,000 billion spirits living on planet Earth, Herb. And then obviously 8 billion of them are incarnated, and the other 16 is still around us. What are they doing? Are they sleeping right now? Are they like, huh? Do you think some of them came with us to the Spirit Center today? Do you think some of them are connected with us when we are making our decisions? This is the reason why, one of the reasons why the Spiritist Center is important in the world. Because it's not only in this nation that is happening, it's not only in Brazil, it's not only in France, it's every part of the world. Out of those 16 billions, we have a good portion that is in Qatar right now, playing soccer with all the individuals, right, Daniel? I'm saying this not only to make fun of it, but also to think that people connect, the spirits connect, right? Pretty soon we're gonna have our Super Bowl here, right? Guess what? A lot of them will be connected with the Super Bowl, right? And it's growing in other nations, by the way. You know, for the Americans who would like to hear that, yes, it's, you know, Brazil, it's a big thing now too. So there's a lot of that. In any case, folks, we get the point, right? In terms of how important this is for us, right? Going back to chapter 17, as they go through a case that was helped, the Monófilo de Miranda reminds us that the light shines brighter when the darkness is more intense. This is because there is a retaliation. There was a retaliation on the case that he was approaching, that they approached to help. That when they see that when the not so evolved spirits, let's leave it that, found out that the individuals in the case were being helped, they intensify, right, to really make those individuals suffer even more, right? They connect with other people who are connected with those individuals. And guess what? The light shine is even brighter because they also knew that it was going to happen, and they start helping those individuals who are connected too, right? So why am I saying this? Because when we come in this alertness of, wow, I'm not in the physical, just in the physical body. I'm not just the physical body, right? We learn that we are in the physical body. In this, we are a spirit reality, right? Living in the physical body, and that sometimes gives us this confusion, right? Because we're so excited by matter, right? That we're like, what am I supposed to do, right? And when I say matter, it's not just the the things to buy, our necessities, but we get really attached to the physical body, the person next to us, the Spiritist Center, right? And we see other spirits who are perhaps started something here on earth and continue in the afterlife, right? I would like to go very briefly on this, and this is perhaps something that we can talk more about in 2 weeks. This is my way to represent, and this is, again, I'll say Leo, to represent or to give you another analogy of what the Spiritist Center here is. This actually is the passage of the Bible when Jesus heals a man let down through the roof of a house, right? And this is a beautiful picture painted, and we can see the man being brought down so Jesus can heal him. And it's in Luke from 5, Luke chapter 5, 17 to 26. We're not going to read the whole thing, but it's interesting to show that at this point here, we see the camaraderie, right? We see the helping hands of somebody. Look, I want to go over there, but I can't go. Well, if there is a way, there is a will, there's a way, right? What do? They make a hole in the ceiling and they bring this man down to help them. You know, when we look at this picture, at least to me, we see that the help is there. I want to go there, right? I don't have a way, but those who are connected with us, they bring us here, right? And we can take these individuals, bringing the men down from the roof as our mentors, right? When we really put ourselves to it and we say, let's do this, right? As well as us sometimes when we not only bring people to the center, but also when we take the message and we bring elsewhere, when we share with others. Because quite frankly, that will be most of our work. When we take Spiritism, which Emmanuel reminds us it is the best that we can do for Spiritism, right, is to share the message. Think that we have the power to say to others, you are eternal. And just leave it at that. That one day, that individual that we said, whether they're materialistic or not, atheist or not, who they believe in something or not, that they will remember that that individual is eternal. At least for sure for us, that has a huge impact, right? Because we know our essence to a certain degree, right? But for many of us out there, we don't know. We don't know. And I can hear myself. Daniel's actually. So the just to finalize here, it is with this picture that I want to leave you and remind you that we are we have this opportunity with us to be the person that is being brought down from the roof, or to be the individual who is actually bringing others from the roof, right? Or through the doors, right? That needs the help. And in the chapter 11 of this book, entitled In the Temple, the Spiritist Conduct by André Luiz and Valdo Vieira, he says the following: whoever is enlightened receives the responsibility of preserving the light. I want to finalize here with another analogy that we can bring to ourselves. Think of the ambulance, right? The hospital is beautiful. People walk in, but sometimes we need the ambulance. I'm not a medium. I'm not. But sometimes I like to think of myself as the ambulance that brings someone here. And I have to say, it didn't bring too many people to the Spiritist Center in the physical sense of the word, but a lot of Mondays, that's how I feel. I get up in the morning, don't have any reason whatsoever to feel physical pain or headaches or perhaps, anything whatsoever, right? But we get up with that feeling like, oh my gosh, the day's kind of sour today, right? Sometimes when I go to work, most of the time when I go to work on the days that we have immunistic meetings, the day just develops to be one of the best days of my life, not to say otherwise, right? And you want to go home, and yet you finish work, you have to come to the Spiritist Center, right? And things change when we're here. Much like Dione was saying earlier, you feel that uneasiness, you feel that something is weird, right? But we know that especially those days or the days before, we get to be connected, right? So what is happening to us? As we talked about the 16 million individuals, spirits that are not incarnated yet. What is happening to us when we come into the Spiritist Center? Is it a favor for the individuals, or is it a favor for us as well? To serve as the ambulance, right? To serve as the rescuer. Not in the sense that we're going to go ahead and save that person's life, but to give the opportunity for us to listen. And as we're here, sometimes they come with us, they sit with us, or they are received. This is not Leo saying. This is Manuel Filomeno Miranda, André Luiz, Joana de Angelis, all of these spirits saying, as we cross these doors, they come with us and they're attended. They're taking someplace else, right? Because they are able to connect our mentors and the mentors of these individuals. They're able to connect them with us because of our fragilities as well. Because how we connect with the world, and there's nothing wrong with this. We're evolving. So are they. But they connect. Oh, Leo loves the white shirt. Okay. There's a guy who likes white shirt as well. Not in this sense, but you get the picture. As let's take this individual to the Spiritist Center. He needs help. Or sometimes we're so irate that we connect with another irate spirit they are brought with us to the Spiritist Center. So it's a win-win situation, right? What is going to happen to this spirit? Very soon, for the grace of God, after they're attended, they're helped, they're going to reincarnate where? Planet Earth, our planet, right? And pretty soon, they're going to have what? As they reincarnate, they will grow, there'll be little ones, then become adults, they'll have family members, right? They'll reproduce, right? Guess what? There'll perhaps be the opportunity for us to reincarnate as well. This is the reason why we're here, right? So let's do our part. Let's do the best we can to be the great emissary of life and to take the responsibility of preserving the light, whether it's a little candle light, or perhaps if we can be, perhaps one day, the sun in someone else's life. Let us do so. We hope that we have learned or reminded ourselves, because a lot of the text that we brought here, the information that we brought here is not new for many of us, but that this can make an impact in your life and make an impact on someone else's life as well, right? We have seen several individuals who came to the Spiritist Center but they left. They felt better, and hopefully they're multiplying the teachings with others. But for those who are here, I will ask everyone, let's embrace the cause, right? As I'm trying to do my best too. I know I went through a little bit extra there, but I would like to open for questions and comments. Let me bring it over here as Daniel is reminding me. I'll open up for some questions here as well, but we have Yasko, got it. Hi, Leo. How the Spiritist centers can help those enduring moral, mental, or physical disorder, and especially those suffering unbearable guilt and lack of self-esteem, purpose, and hope in continuing living. Wow. Is there a protocol, guidelines set to assist those seeking the Spiritist centers for help regarding their faith? Wow, this is an interesting one. Well, I would like to say at first that first and foremost, what the Spiritist centers ought to do for us is to, and I'm speaking in terms of being someone inserted inserting in the teachings and the guidelines and the things that we do, participating as well in some of the decisions that we make, is that it ought to help us analyze who we are, internalize really, and find out, okay, who am I, right? And find this essence, find within ourselves that we are part of the universe. We are a creature, a creation of God, right? Understand that we are eternal, right? Understand that there will be a tomorrow. That a lot of our difficulties that we are suffering right now has to do with our past. Many of them, if not most of them, has to do with our ignorance now, right? That has a basis in the past, right? However, we have a tomorrow. And once we learn, as we learn in the Spirit's book, to know thyself, which is a long journey. Because when we start thinking, wow, I know a little bit about myself, and you're like, wow, but I know very superficially, right? And that sometimes can bring us some trouble because we want to learn more, right? It's getting to that doctor's degree and saying, okay, that was a doctor's degree in one thing, right? But there are a million other things that people are actually working their lives right now, right? So if anything is to the stimulation to know thyself. As far as, Daniel, can you put it back again? As far as the protocol, right, that she asked, yes. Is there a protocol guideline set to assist those seeking the Spiritist Center for help, a helpline, regardless of their faith? I think that the protocol here is to, I shouldn't say protocol, but it's the willingness to assist, right? The Spiritist Center in general, not only the direct workers of the house, but those connected with us to say, look, there's a place that, has assisted me this or that way, right? It's amazing how I was listening to a Spiritist radio station in Brazil yesterday, and many of the participants, they were from other religions. It's really interesting. I was like, oh my God. And this lady, they were talking to the presenter and everything. But it's what really brings them back or brought them to the show, and it keeps bringing them back, is how the presenter, the Spiritist presenter, actually acknowledges them and make them inclusive as well with their ideas. And they ask questions, very pertaining questions to the topic. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is the level that we want to get, right? Whether somebody is from this or that denomination, religion, or whatnot, whatever problem they have, to say, what can I help you with, right? It may not be directly in our means to help them, right? But especially when we're talking about moral issues, or not moral issues, but psychological issues, that perhaps we'll say, as we say in every session that we have when we're trying to help someone, look for a doctor. If it is especially if it is something physical, make sure you see a doctor, right? Science is out there to help us. Don't ignore it, especially the guys. They're afraid of going to the doctors, right? No, you have to. Do it. I'll take you over there. So that's the idea. But the willingness to help, that will be the basis, or be the protocol of the Spiritist Center. Alba, I think you or Paula. Paula actually had a question. We have more.
Thank you. No, this was excellent. And my question really, what
Don't eat it.
my question really, builds around Yasko's, and has been answered partially by what you just said. The different functions of the Spiritist Center, and how people come for certain functions. Like you have the charity, you have the healing clinic, you have the study groups, and then the people who go the deepest, that participate in the mediumship circles. Just how, because in Brazil it's much more experienced than here, how the flow of the population moves in and out of those various activities. And then also what you just said to me is so important as an American. We have gone through our own journeys in religion and dogmas, etc. And I'm mainly speaking for myself and my friends, we tend to be pretty eclectic. And so understanding you can participate in Spiritism, but you don't have to fully identify with it like the old-fashioned religion, is really important. So there's all these varied levels going on, in your functions, and who comes and goes.
True. Let me address a couple of things that you said. That's extremely important. I think you have more of a comment than a question, but it's really interesting that you say this, and that is the reason why that I brought those passages from those different books. Kardec addressing, Spiritism in England, Kardec addressing the Spiritist Center in general, and who should be part of it, and how should be the Spiritist meetings, right? Because we find ourselves in different levels, right? In terms of, not only psychologically, morally as well, but also as a nation, because we had different upbringings, altogether in terms of a nation, right? I mean, much different from England, right? On how we see things, right? This country is a beautiful foundation for spirituality, right? Lilydale, different locations, and what happened here, and the connection that has with Spiritism as well. So I think we need to be open to address these things, depending where you are, because quite frankly, it will be very different for us to do Spiritism, when I say do Spiritism, but to apply spirituality and Spiritism here than it is in Texas, than it is in California, than it is, if you go to the northeast part of Brazil, part of the country, Connecticut, people are different. Even the Brazilians, since we also have to address this, because a lot of Brazilians who migrated to the US, they're from different locations in Brazil as well. And we also have to understand that the vibration of that location is different from Maryland. Right? So things are different. And yes, there are groups of people who will attend to the different function of the Spiritist Center, right? the Spiritist Center is not that we, everyone who come to the Spiritism, we want to be a medium. We want to participate in a mediumistic meeting, right? But rest assured, we're all meeting, right? We all can be that little ambulance, right? That is bringing something to somebody or someone somewhere, right? So it's okay. And that is the beauty of it, because we don't need to have 30 people doing the same thing. We can develop in our own ways. We have, one of the aspects that I love to see during our meetings is, which is something that I did not address much, but with COVID, we have now our study group on Thursdays, right? And many of you have participated. Some people, they're very quiet. They're very, they stay on there. But when they say something, it's like, wow, it's amazing, right? Or they just stay quiet, but they're learning. They're processing everything that they're getting, throughout those meetings in their lives, hopefully, right? And they are becoming a better individual. Much like the women that Kardec brings to us and saying they will be a better provider. They will be a better individual in society, right? So I'm glad that you made this comment that, yeah, it's not that we will do everything the same or we will apply ourselves in the same functions, but to be inclusive in all ways, definitely. So thank you. I hope that helps. Daniel.
Thank you, Leo. That was a great presentation. I just want to try a little bit more about the importance of the Spirit Center. And one of the most important one is the consolation aspect. We all need to have some reassurance that we are not alone in our suffering, right? So this consolation aspect is the open door for the Spirit Center. Then from that point, the need that the person is looking, because sometimes the consolation is not because of a physical problem or even like a psychological, but it's that need to understand why we are here, right? And the educational part and the remind that we are immortal spirit. Because if we don't have this idea that we are immortal spirit, we think that the suffering is, taking us forever, right? But the immortal spirit means that, okay, I'm suffering right now, must have a cause, and tomorrow I'll be okay, right? And this reassurance and the reminder, I think the importance of the Spirit Center is very important. The words of the importance of the Spirit Center very important is interesting, right? But it's just to us to remember that we don't go to the Spirit Center only for, talk to the spirits, but it's also to learn how to talk to ourselves and to understand our role in the society, and also what we need to do in order for us to overcome our problem. It's just a small comment.
Thank you. And I want to add to what you just said, Daniel, that this idea of eternity is beautiful, because when we don't have that capability to understand that we're eternal, that we think that seizing the physical life will seize our suffering, guess what? It just only makes it worse. So it is a beautiful point that Daniel brought, that again, we can go on and on and on, right? That once we understand that we're eternal, and if I seize my life, if I take away my life, suicide, indirect or direct, which is something that we can work on later on, it will only make matters worse, right? So it's important that this idea of eternity, it goes beyond of the fact that just being in one life.
Immortal, eternal is only God. Immortal.
Thank you.
Spirit. Now, I just wanted to, because people may think that,
we have a beginning, but we have no end.
Yeah, so this classifies as immortal.
Right.
Eternal is only God that has no beginning.
I'm sorry if I use it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I think we have one more person online. Okay. Paul, are you going to say one final thing? I shouldn't. I didn't say this in a negative way. Final thing, but
no, there is a clock. I understand that. I think this topic can obviously be continued,
Mhm.
and it would be nice also to discuss Spiritism in the United States, and just one more personal thing that just came to mind. Spiritism is so unique in this country to me because it openly teaches reincarnation.
Mhm.
That's a big step.
Yes.
If we look at the history of Judaism and all the Christian religions,
Right.
so already the presence of Spiritism for thinking people or people that like we might be sharing books with
Mhm.
is already a blessing.
And Paula is great at it. Always sharing books. Leo, I need to send this book to this person. So that's a great thing. It is. I would like to finalize with one, if nobody has any more comments. And we're going to be sharing soon as well. But we received a message recently of a spirit who came to the Spiritist Center through a mediumistic meeting. Actually, reminding us of the state where the spirit is right now, hopefully soon to reincarnate as well. But with the spirit, when it was brought to us, which we don't remember when it happened, actually was really not only doubting but let's say making a big mess of the Spiritist Center, like influence people at the Spiritist Center. This spirit was rescued, was helped, and this was actually about a year ago that happened, the first encounter, and the spirit finally came back to thank us for what has been done to rescue them. And I say this in very few words. We're going to share the message soon that came as it was psychographed, actually, but as an example that was also what we learn in several cases with the trilogy of Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, right? Of spirits that are connected with us, making a mess of our lives, right? And they are helped, and we are helped. But that only happens when we persist. That only happens when we acknowledge that, look, there is a tomorrow, right? That only happens when we want to make a difference in our lives. That will be help coming from all over the place. But if we don't acknowledge that there is an issue, especially that issue that I said earlier today, because I think I'll be vulnerable now and say, sometimes it is hard to live a spiritualist or a spiritist life in the physical body. Because everything that is being thrown at us is what? A materialistic way of living, right? The hedonistic way that we have to, we have to get the most pleasure out of everything right now, right? It is the end of the year. We already feel it. We already feel it, right? Commercials are beautiful, So it is one of the vulnerabilities that we have. But if we persist, if we continue on, if we press on, guess what? We will be helped, right? So many of us were being tested. Many of us will be tested, right? But if we persist, if we give our hands to one another, things ought to change. It's not that I need to know what was or who came or who did not, but as Daniel says, the consolation that we have. The third revelation that comes to us, as was promised by Jesus, saying, I will send a help. It's not going to be one individual, but I will send you a help that will clarify a lot that we have said, that we have learned, right? Because Jesus, again, that's another aspect, as Paula said, we can extend this for many, many others. Jesus does not work alone, and he needs us as the hands, as Kirsten mentioned to us about a month ago or so, right? To be the hands on planet Earth. So with no further ado, we want to thank you for this moment. We would like to quiet ourselves down so we can say a prayer and receive the passes as well. We'll ask Isabella to turn off the light. Sure, please stand up for 30 seconds. Yes.